Welcome to The Change, a podcast about the changes in life that shake, break, and make us. I'm Laura, a 45-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum who has until recently always loved change.
And I'm Kathy, a 53-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum, and change is actually my kryptonite. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia on which this podcast is recorded and recognise the continuing connections to lands, waters, and communities.
We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and elders past and present.
The Season 2 partner of The Change is Olivio Wellness Skincare, hydrating natural skincare for the over 40s.
Keep listening to the end of this episode for a discount code for your next order of Olivio Wellness products. Hello, Kathy. How are you?
Hey, I'm pretty good. It's winter time and there's colds and coughs and flus and the things around. But I'm okay.
Totes relate. It is that time of year and it's that time of life, really, isn't it? I mean, we've had such a great season. We've spoken to so many brilliant women. And I think, it's been a reflective time. We've both been chatting off microphone just now about this time of life and how tricky it is. And like, it's not all good, is it? It's a mixture of the goods and the bads. And I was just saying to you before, I've had a mammogram recently and I'm kind of still waiting for some results on that. And it's like, it's just been a few health appointments on my journey towards potentially going on some HRT and a little bit of an insight into what it must be like to be elderly, because I feel like every other day I've got some kind of blood test or like health appointment and, all so far so good. I am mostly pretty healthy, but it's just that merry-go-round of, which I'm not really into. And I think it's something you really only start getting a taste of if you're lucky in midlife, isn't it? That's when it really starts to like hit home a bit. But I was saying to you as well before, it's school holidays currently here in Australia. It's winter school holidays. And earlier I dropped my little one off this morning to a week of fun times. He's doing this like drama club with creative play and there are all these kids there. And he was like revved up to get into it and have a fabulous week. And I was chatting to the woman that was running it and saying to her, my God, I am so jealous. Like I would love to be dropped off by someone and just have even just one day of pure creative play where someone is telling me what to do. I'm just, colouring, drawing, mucking about, being a bit of a dick with my mates. Like that just to me sounds like pure heaven. And someone's made me lunch. Do you know what I mean? Like as an adult, how rare is it to do something, even for 6 hours in a row, that is pure fun, organised by someone else that's not like fitness related or beauty related? Because obviously we prioritise things like getting your waxing or getting your hair done or going to the gym because you want to look good, don't want to be,
or we want to be healthy or whatever it is, move our bodies to be strong and
always
healthy
critical,
and
correct of our own selves and trying to be better, but purely to have fun. Oh my God, sounds like bliss.
I know. It's so funny that you should say that because yesterday, Sunday, I went to my friend's book launch and she's just the most incredible woman. And Danielle has written a fabulous book and it is called The Chocolate Bar Life. It's all about the way she describes it on the front. It says, creating the delicious balance of work, rest and play. But what Danielle was saying yesterday is that we've all got the work down pat. We often think of the rest as like that's sleep, but it's actually not. That's a basic biological need that we have. So even rest for a lot of people is not rest. It's not programmed rest. It's not like 5 minutes every hour, walk outside, get some nature or whatever, which is along the lines of what Dr. Dimity said to us at the beginning of the season, how essential that is in our lives, disconnecting from all the things, stop from all the things just for 5 minutes or even 2 minutes. If that's all you can do 2 minutes, but do 2 minutes regularly throughout the day. And that's just that restorative rest. But the big thing that we miss as adults is we miss the play. We don't do the play. We often think of the play as exactly the things that you mentioned, hairdresser, exercise or whatever. And there was probably, I don't know, maybe 30 people in the room yesterday, and I don't know, 3 or 4 people said they do something purely for fun, for no other reason other than for fun. And, I do things that are fun, but I don't do them purely because they're fun, if that makes sense. So
100% makes sense. I think it's a common issue for busy working women, mums of every age and stage, but particularly midlife when you've got the sandwich full of parents
Absolutely.
and kids and work stress and just so much going on, isn't there? And I always prioritize things like catching up with my husband for dinner, which is lovely. It's not necessarily the same as something that's selfish fun. I guess we just don't have time for it, do we?
Well, I think, and this is what Dan sort of says, is that we prioritize everybody else's fun. We make sure that everybody else is looked after. We make sure that our kids have had the fun. We make sure our husbands have had the fun, or our partners, or the whoever's in our lives, the other people. And we prioritize the others, and we get what's left over, and often there really isn't very much left over at the end. It's I've read parts of Dan's book, and I've certainly been along the journey with her because we've been mates for like over 10 years about. It's really important, I think, to think of those things as restorative, like the rest and the play. It's actually restorative because then we can bring our best selves to the work. And the work doesn't necessarily have to be paid work. It might be that we're at home with the kids, or it might be that we're in an unpaid caring role with our elderly parents or something. The work is the thing that we do.
That can be satisfying and give you a sense of purpose, and it also pays the bills in some respects. But it's the kind of like the essential part of life that you cannot get around.
And we need to probably not tie as much of our self-worth and self-esteem to our work as well. Like maybe
struggle with that so hard.
It's a big thing for me too, because I know when I was a stay-at-home mum, I used to say I would describe myself as a stuck-at-home mum. I took no joy in that. And I know that there'll be people that will scream at me and say, oh my God, you were in a privileged position. And I absolutely was. And I completely acknowledge that. But it was hard, Yakka. I really struggled with it. And dragged myself through the mire every day. But it's, and now I'm out the other side. It's interesting because, now it's tough as well.
Different tough, right?
Yeah, it's a different tough. So, and I know we've been chatting a lot, and you know that I'm thinking of you always with all of your health things, because,
health things.
I've kind of been there. I've had to do my health journeys myself.
Yeah, tell me about that. You've had a recent change there too,
yeah,
right?
So it's probably not so recent for me, but it might be recent for other people to hear it. About 18 months ago, maybe a bit over, I was actually formally diagnosed with ADHD. And being menopausal, midlife, ADHD woman, it's just like, oh my God, it's ticking all the boxes, and I just don't want to be that person. So I haven't really kind of publicly sort of said that. I mean, obviously there are people who know. Some family know, some family don't, because I just haven't really made a big deal about it, because I don't ever want it to be an excuse for anything. But for me, it's really helped explain a lot of things.
Okay.
And that combined with good HRT and medication, and the right medication has kind of helped me be a bit more stable and a bit more understanding with myself.
Yeah.
And it was a diagnosis that was probably, gosh, it was 2 years in the making before I was formally diagnosed. And it was with a neuropsychiatrist that I've been working with for nearly 10 years now. So he knew me really well. Like, it wasn't like I just kind of rang the online guy and got the online diagnosis because it was trendy on TikTok. And yeah, so anyway, that's really helped a lot.
Yeah. How does it sort of show up for you, the ADHD? How did you come to that conclusion?
For
Obviously the doctor did,
me,
but for you.
yeah, so for me, it's a lot around, it's the anxiety, it's there's been a lot of mental health issues over the years. It's definitely perfectionism traits, and it's a paralysis in being able to make decisions, being able to do things. But I can also look back as to when I was younger, there was very much an impulsivity when I was younger. And that has probably something that has carried through into my adult, like definitely through my adult years. And I impulsively do things, or maybe impulsively spend. You would use, alcohol to fix things a lot. So in my younger years, and just being kinder to myself, that, I need to just sometimes take a little bit more time. But I will say that it's kind of, sometimes it's a little bit amazing because I see things in the world from a very different point of view to other people. Just having a little bit of a spicy brain can kind of help you a bit sometimes. And I can see a bigger picture sometimes, and I can connect dots really quickly in situations that other people can't see. And it's just like, to me, they're really obvious, but and I can pull things from all different directions to get to, where, like, the right answer. But don't ask me how I got to the right answer. I just did. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's oftentimes it just pops into my head.
Yeah.
But there's no sequential way that I got to that answer. So, which is probably why I struggled with things like math at school, because I could never show my working, but I could often sort of go, oh yeah, well, the answer's 10. But I don't know how I got, 2 plus 2 times 25 divided by 6 is 10. Like, I don't know. I mean, and for any maths people listening, that I know is not the answer to that equation. Don't know what it is, but I know that anything divided by 6 is not going to give me an answer for 10. But it's kind of crazy. And yeah, it's a little bit tough because I don't want to be that stereotypical random middle-aged woman that's got all the things and ticking all the boxes. But I did see something this morning that made me really laugh, because it was like, we're not being diagnosed because we're in midlife and because we're watching TikTok and Instagram reels. It's because we've got a loud voice now.
Yes,
and
being listened to as well, right?
And I think that's the thing, right? I think that there's a bit of a movement for midlife women, whether it be around a spicy brain diagnosis, whether it be around menopause, perimenopause, or whether it be around career or family or what we want to do with ourselves. I think that it's just that we've found our voice, and I think our mothers and our grandmothers fought for us to have a voice. And we're finally kind of finding that voice, and we're starting to use it, which hopefully will be amazing for our kids and their kids.
Let's hope so. It's a good step forward.
Yeah.
So today our little theme for this chat is all about women at work. And I came across this article on Substack by a writer named Letitia Vitaud. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. She writes in French mostly. I'm not sure if she is from France or another French-speaking country, but she has a Substack called The Future of Work with a feminist kind of twist. And this particular article or newsletter was all about why midlife women walk out of corporate jobs. And yes, gosh, it struck a chord because I had been thinking in most of the last few jobs that I've had, actually, and the most recent job that I started at News Corp, I walked in and at 45, I'm the oldest person on my team. And looking around this very large, corporate environment in Sydney, I was probably one of the older women in that environment, a big, lots of women there. And I think, my God, that's, I'm not old, like I genuinely am not, and I know I'm not old. I've got a solid 20 years left of work in me if I go by the kind of current retirement age. And yet I did not see many women in their 50s, if any, certainly not on the floor, maybe in the top level management roles. But even then, and we all know the stats don't show that it's mostly still men in those roles. And I just thought, my God, and it's not just me. I know there's lots of women feeling that way. We're in this point in our lives where we've got perhaps a bit of a lack of confidence because we might be feeling invisible for the first time. We've got the stress of being in midlife that we've just spoken about. We might be having health issues for the first time. We might have teenagers at home like, I do and you do at different ends of the teenage age spectrum. And then we've got, some people have elderly parents like yourself, you're caring for them, you're helping them move, etc. We've got our hormones happening and going all over the place. There's just a lot going on, isn't there? And so work can really become a stress that can be too much for people. And whether that means they quit or they take a back step, into something that's less stressful. And I feel like that kind of makes me angry too, right? Because the men are not doing that. And I don't know, is that because they have the wife that's at home that's gone, no, it's all too hard, I'm doing too much and I need to step back? Or is it because they don't have the hormone issue? I mean, there's lots of things going on there, but we're already coming from that backward step. We've already taken time out to have our baby. So we're already kind of behind the 8 ball. That's what it feels like by the time we get to this stage. It's like, but we're already behind, and there's a sense of desperately needing to catch up, but perhaps not feeling like we've got the energy to do so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I really do. I wonder if, I guess I'm probably going to be a little bit generous to the men because I wonder if some of them feel all those things too. But because of the patriarchy, they can't step out either.
True,
it's no easier for them to step out than it is for us to step in. And maybe I don't know. I guess I'm probably, and any of our feminist listeners will probably come at me and say, "Oh my goodness, you're being that's just the patriarchy speaking." But is it does the system work for them any better than it works for us?
It doesn't.
I don't think it does.
No, and certainly not all men. Some men benefit, and some men don't. Yeah,
I think in general, I completely agree with you, and I think it is really hard. There are no easy answers.
No,
and I do believe that workplaces are missing out by having that diversity of voices in leadership roles, and it is really hard for women who have been in caring roles for long periods of time, like myself, trying to get back into the workforce because everybody wants current job resumes and current references. And if you've been out of the workforce for 10 years because you've been raising children, there are no current references.
Yeah.
So,
we're kind of, it's hard, isn't it? You're starting behind for a lot of, not all women. And obviously there are some women, I should say, are smashing it out there and they're doing amazing things. And my God, I look to them and I think you're fabulous. And I wish I could be more like you. But yeah, you're right. You're kind of already, if we've taken that time out, it's really hard. And I just wanted to really quickly read this first paragraph because this is from Letitia's article on her Substack because it drew me in. I thought, oh my goodness, yes, I really felt this. So she says, for women, age is always an issue at work. Too young, they can't be taken seriously. In their 30s, they'll be discriminated against because they can get pregnant. Those who have children suffer the motherhood penalty. In their mid-40s, they'll already be deemed too old. Eventually, the few of them who remain in the corporate world beyond menopause will be in the minority because the toxic mix of ageism and sexism will have discouraged many of those who haven't already left because they couldn't juggle caregiving and working full time. And I was like, oh, yes, it's so true. Like, when we're in our 20s, we're like too young and silly. And you feel I remember that sense of not feeling confident enough to speak up in meetings because what did I know? I was a 26-year-old, woman with a lack of experience. And then you're like going for jobs in your late 20s. And I could feel that pressure from employers kind of looking at me like, she's married, she's in her late 20s. She's going to have babies. And I remember even being asked that in interviews, which is going back obviously 15 years. And I think hopefully that doesn't still happen. And I think it is actually illegal to be asked those questions.
It would have been illegal 15 years ago.
It would, but yes, it was sort of more acceptable.
I know.
Yeah.
It's so outdated. But isn't it hilarious? You were saying that, when you're in your early 20s, that
late
you
20s
felt, but that you felt not confident enough to speak up, right? Now, you and I have both worked with incredible women in their early 20s who had no qualms speaking up.
It's generational. It must be, mustn't it?
It's crazy how I look at them and they are so confident in a workplace. I'm not saying that they are always feeling confident, but the women that we worked with have definitely got this confidence about them that I didn't have at their age, because
100%.
I felt like I didn't have the runs on the board. I didn't have the qualifications behind me, whatever it was. And I felt that because I didn't have those things, I couldn't speak up. My voice was not valued. My voice was small and needed to be small and quiet.
Yeah.
Whereas I just see it across the board in the
Gen
younger.
Z.
They don't care. They're like, I'm going to speak up. I got a voice.
And their voice is totally valid.
And I'm going to say it.
Yeah. Well, our voices would have been valid then too. When we were working with the kind of boomer generation, we were the Gen X, we would have had valid opinions, but Gen X is such a classic. We are that like invisible, forgotten generation that everyone talks about. And unfortunately, being the forgotten generation in midlife is like a fucking cataclysmic nightmare that the Gen Zs probably won't have, because they've already come through. And obviously this is not every generation, and perhaps because we were working in media too, right, that there's a lot of quite confident women in media. I think that's, and young media, and being young in media is an advantage, whereas being young in other industries is probably less so. Do you know what I mean? Whereas in other industries, if you're working as a lawyer, you probably would be more valued in your 40s if you've had all the experience, versus media where they just want someone that knows what is happening on the TikToks,
Yes, very much so.
We're in the wrong. I mean, I'm in the wrong industry. I think that's probably where I'm coming to realize. I don't know.
I think that you are, and I wonder if the industry needs to catch up with us, because where are our voices if the only people that are writing for us are in their 20s? How can they possibly know what it is like to be in your 40s, in your 50s?
You can't.
I remember when we were speaking with Trish Bolton about her book, and she was saying that, when you write, they tell you to write about the things you know. But you can't write about being 70 if you're only 20.
That's right. Yeah.
You don't know it.
No.
So you can't write about it. You can guess, or you can look at your grandparents, but that's not living it either.
No.
So you do need to be closer to those ages. And if everybody that's writing in the media is in their 20s, then they're not writing for us. They're not writing about us, and they're not writing about our experiences. And I think some of our experiences also come back to, that we don't have the wife at home or the person at home. And Annabelle Crabb wrote about this years ago in The Wife Drought.
Wife Drought, great book.
Yes, fabulous book. And she basically said that to be a successful person, whether you are a woman, man, or whatever, you know, whoever you are, not whatever you are, whoever you are, you need somebody in the background carrying the torch and the load for you so that you can do those incredible things.
That's
and
right.
It just is, that's just the way it is. And it's true. Whether you've got little kids, whether you've got big kids, whether you've got in between kids, there's always something. And if it's not the kids, it's aging parents. If it's not the aging parents, it's yourself. There's always something. And we all need somebody to be helping us carry that load as we go along. And I think that's why we don't see women in leadership roles, because
or in any roles, like in anything that's not just receptionist, or, you know, there's not anything wrong with being a receptionist, but there's just a lack of women over 50 in particular, I think, in corporate roles across the board. Just, you know, there's not as many as there are the young. And where are they all? You know, what are they all doing?
Where have they gone and what are they doing? And also the terrifying thing about that for me is, what is there for our younger women to aspire to? If you can't see somebody in leadership that you want to be like, then it's really hard to kind of go, all right, I can get from here to there, and that's how I can do this, and this is the steps that I need to take along the way to be able to get from there to here, you know, or here to there, you know. And so that's why I think, and I don't know who said it, and I'm sure it was somebody incredibly important or inspirational, but you can't be what you can't see. And it's so true. If you can't see women, older women in any roles, then you kind of think, well, I age out at a certain point. And for most of us, even if you are lucky enough to have superannuation, I know my husband and I are having a lot of retirement discussions, and, you know, when can we retire and at what age, and, you know, what's our preservation age of our superannuation? Because for us, currently as it stands, age pension is 67, I think, or maybe a bit older. But our preservation age of our superannuation is earlier than that. But it's not until 60. So I'm 53, so that's a minimum of 7 years left in the workforce. I don't want to be doing something that doesn't float my boat for the next 7 years. I don't actually see myself retiring at 60 either, because I want then the next kind of 5 to 7 years to be my Euro vacay years, and like doing all of those fun things, like where I work and fill the coffers and go off and do amazing, incredible holiday things and stuff. So anyway,
and it's a long time to feel, you know, a decade or more is 2 decades in, you know, in my experience, is going to be a long time to be unhappy in a role or to feel like we're not valued. And I think, like Letitia, back to the original article, she sort of talks about how, you know, women over 50 have got so much talent and energy to spare, and companies are not tapping into it because they demand so much from you. Like we were talking before, I think off mic, about, you know, there's so much energy required in some of these, and there's so much change, and there's a lot of lack of empathy from corporate, you know, organizations that are not necessarily geared up to support an older workforce. But that is a waste. It's a waste of all this amazing talent in women, and the fact that so many women are having, you know, we might be lucky in, you know, in the fact that we've got husbands at work, but if you're a single woman, or you're divorced, or and you haven't got any pension or haven't got any superannuation, it's a huge problem. Like pension poverty is massive for women, and it's a real toxic problem. That's, you know, that mix of ageism and sexism for women. Like men just don't have the same issues. So yeah, it's a really important conversation that women need to keep having and thinking about, and how we can manage to not be completely cut off from our work lives, but also manage our own sanity, the caring roles in our lives somehow. It's very tricky. And you shared another article when we were talking about this particular debate from Holly Corbett at Forbes. What was that one you were talking about?
It was why menopause-friendly workplaces are better for everybody is actually the heading of the article. Yep. And it's really saying a lot of the same things, which I think was hilarious that you sent me yours and I sent you mine, and we'd completely independently not even talked about a topic.
No.
And
on our minds, obviously.
Yeah, I know, right? And it is so important, and I think it really is. And there was a great quote in that piece, which is, workplaces are lucky to have menopausal women because it's a powerful age. And I would say we are 100%. It is powerful.
Yeah.
And then the quote goes on to say, I think the best qualities of leadership are feminine qualities like empathy and collaboration. That's not to say that men can't have those things, but they are genuinely, I think, across the board, more feminine qualities than they are masculine qualities.
And such great qualities.
100%. And I think, I do think that workplaces benefit from having those cross-generational people in their workplaces who bring the whole gamut of everything, so that you can see what is real in life and what is happening. And so anyway, I despair that there isn't that, and I hope that that changes with our generation, and maybe we are the trailblazers. But I do wonder where all the women went. Like, where are they all? Like, where are all the 50-year-old women?
You know, and I had this interesting chat with my friend yesterday in the UK. We were talking about, the coming of technology and AI and how that's changing workplaces. And it's not that we're too old to understand, but I think that, it's it is like the cataclysmic, coming together of us being over or coming towards 50, and companies are embracing this tech. And I feel tired thinking about like how I'm going to have to learn how to, manage some kind of chatbot in my work environment. But, I can understand from a corporate perspective that older means less, knowledgeable around tech. We haven't grown up with it like the Gen Z have. And so that's where we need to try and stay relevant. But at the same time, it's fucking exhausting trying to stay relevant and on top of all the changes. But, in some respects, we need to. But what I just wanted to end with was that Letitia, who was writing that original piece, said that women over 50 are turning massively to entrepreneurship and freelancing, which makes a lot of sense, actually. I know a lot of women that are doing that. They're going, if they can afford to, they're either kind of going out on their own, or they're, like your Danielle, your writer friend, they're freelancing, they're doing their own thing, because it is in some ways a great time to be creatively free. And just if you can't, see yourself in a corporate environment, then go create your own, go and do your own thing, which is very inspiring. Not available to everyone, but, where you can, it's a nice thought that, there are women out there just forging their own bloody paths.
Yeah, I wish I had the confidence to do it, because
we're doing it right here. This is that vibe.
We certainly are. But I also have the safety net of a job. So
yes, same. I totally see that. Yeah.
And it's like leaving the safety net of a job to do that. Those women really inspire me.
Yeah. To end the episode, we're going to quickly serve up a couple of recommendations. Mine is the Bronwyn podcast by Hedley Thomas. It's all about the disappearance of Bronwyn Winfield in 1993 up in Lennox Head. It is such a great, so far 7-part podcast. It's unbelievable that this woman has been disappeared, very much clearly murdered, by potentially allegedly by her ex-husband John Winfield, and that he's just been out there living his life. Like, I get angry listening to it, but it is a really in-depth, excellent listen. Hedley Thomas was the journalist behind the Teacher's Pet podcast that ultimately led to Chris Dawson's arrest and subsequent jail sentence for the murder of his wife, and Lynn. yeah, so I think, anyway, I've been really enjoying it in a kind of angry way, but it's a very well done listen. Have you had a chance to listen to that one?
I haven't listened to that. No, but I have listened to a different one about a different lady who also disappeared in the early 90s,
Oh my
and
God, it's
now
outrageous the amount of women that go,
oh my
they
goodness,
disappear, and
I
they're
know,
like, how
disappear,
is this
right?
not
And
investigated? Yeah.
yeah, and her daughter raised it with the police up in a similar area, like Byron
Oh, not The
Bay.
Lady
And
Vanishes.
yes, The Lady
That's a
Vanishes. That's
great
it.
one as well.
Oh my goodness, incredible.
Marion Barter, the teacher
That's
who
it.
went missing.
That's
Yeah.
it. And
Unbelievable
yeah,
story. Yeah.
incredible. And these journalists sort of doing these deep dives into what happened. And I mean, you can't always blame policing, because I think they do what they can with the stretched resources that they have. But yeah, it's just incredible. So I have just finished an incredible book. It's a memoir.
Okay.
Because and it's by Ariane Beeston. And she has written a memoir called Because I'm Not Myself, You See. And it's her memoir of her journey around postpartum psychosis.
Wow.
And it's just incredible. Yeah, a lot of it resonated with me. I never had the psychosis, but I certainly plunged into very dark places when I had my babies. And it was never picked up, or I was able to mask it. And that is easy enough to do if you do enough of those Edinburgh scales or the depression, anxiety scale. It's easy enough to give the right result that the person sitting across from you wants. Yeah. So whether I mastered it or not, I don't know. But yeah, it's just an incredible book. And her courage to tell her story is really something that I admire. Yeah. So
I'll check it out.
Yeah. So do you, in TV shows, anything like any?
Look, I just finished watching A Family Affair on Netflix, which was hilarious. It's got Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron. It's been getting terrible reviews, but look, and Nicole's face and Zac Efron's face been getting a lot of media about how they look a bit strange. I just feel, well, God, whatever. They're quite watchable and it's quite funny. And just seeing women, older women, have a relationship with a younger man, it's breaking some taboos. I'm here for it. It was an easy watch.
You're funny you say that. I watched Anyone But You recently, and
Yeah.
I saw all the reviews on that, and everyone absolutely panned it and said, "Don't watch it; it's terrible." But I needed something just really light.
Yeah,
and
sometimes you do.
quite terrible, to be honest. And not terrible in that they were bad actors or anything like that, but I just needed something to be really light and easy to watch. And so I actually just recently watched that. So I will give Family Affair a watch as well.
Do it. It's pretty silly.
I just want to say it's been amazing doing the last season.
Yay, season
we've
2.
had some, as you mentioned at the beginning, we've had some absolutely fabulous women. Was there a quick highlight for you? Who was your favourite?
Look, it was amazing to talk to Georgia Van Kuylenberg. She was really interesting to hear her side of the story. I think, every guest brings their own
they sure do.
Story, and it's been just a great season, and great to thank you for listening, everyone.
Yes, we love that you will listen. I guess my favourite was Talitha, but that's because
she's amazing as well.
She's she's the bomb, and she is one of my most favourite people. And we, interestingly, I will call it out, Anne Stevens was incredibly well received by you all. You love her. You love listening to the older women. So I think we need to think about that. And we're planning season 2, but if
season
we
3.
Oh, sorry, season 3. My goodness, it's season 3. But if we could ask for one big favour, if you could give us a like or a review or a rating.
Yes, anything. It all helps.
It all helps. We would love you forever for doing that, because that helps get into other people's ears, which then helps with sponsorship and all those things, which means
just
that
to keep us
Laura
going.
and I, can keep doing this, which is something that we're absolutely loving.
Yeah, we love.
And I guess this is my fun. This is my play.
Yes, true. This is our fun.
This is my fun. This is my play. So I want to keep doing it. And and till next time.
Till next time. We'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to The Change, a fully independent podcast.
We love the Australian-made, all-natural skincare brand Alivio Wellness, and we know you will too.
Use code THECHANGE at the checkout to receive 20% off your next order. Whether you're seeking inspiration, curious about change, or just here for the great banter, we'd love you to make The Change your new go-to podcast.
And even better, send us your voice notes or questions about change. We'll use them on the show. Email us at changepod2023@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at _change_pod. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for more on The Change.